what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Derica and you are watching Shelf Love with D. Welcome back to another weekly wrap up. Today is Sunday, March 1st. I hope you all are enjoying your Sunday with your family, friends, or resting, reading, whatever it is that you're doing. I am going to jump right into this wrap up so that I can get back to my family as well and enjoy the rest of our Sunday. So the first book up that I read this past week was Sing Me to Sleep. And as y'all saw, this book, I touched a little bit on it in my reading vlog, so I'm not going to go too heavy into this. But I did want to make a note that going forward, I have decided that I am not going to give books a star rating unless it is a 5-star read. And I am on the fence about maybe possibly like still doing a 4 to a 4.5 star rating. I just could not get a consistent rating scale across the board on why I rated something 3 stars or less or things like that. And for me, so much goes into my star ratings and I just didn't find it fair. So I think it is just easiest to stick with if something is a 5-star rating, then I will say, and like I said, I'm still on the fence about 4.5 star ratings. I will keep you guys posted on that, but that was like the only thing that I could give a consistent Y on the 5-star rating. And we all know what a 5-star feels like. And so I am looking for that feeling of like Yellow Wife, Junie, those books like that just like had me stuck staring at the wall, and I felt every emotion and felt as though the book checked every box for me. So with that being said, if the book is not a 5-star rating, I will just be discussing my likes and dislikes regarding the book. So with this book here, if you're not familiar with what Sing Me to Sleep is about, I will go ahead and read the book description for you. It says, in this dark and seductive YA fantasy debut, a siren must choose between protecting her family and following her heart in a prejudiced kingdom where her existence is illegal. Sorsa Sorkova survives on lies. As a soldier in training at the most prestigious barracks in the kingdom, she lies about being a siren to avoid execution. At night, working as an assassin for a dangerous group of mercenaries, Sorcy lies about her true identity. And to her family, Sorcy tells the biggest lie of all, that she can control her siren powers and doesn't struggle constantly against an impulse to kill. As a top trainee in her class, Sorcy would be headed for a bright future if it weren't for her need to keep her secret out of the spotlight. But when a mysterious blackmailer threatens her sister, Sorcy, I cannot remember how to pronounce her name. I think they were saying Sasha takes a dangerous job that will help. Sorsa takes a dangerous job that will help her investigate. She becomes personal bodyguard to the crown prince, who she hates. After all, his father is the one who enforces the kingdom's brutal creature segregation laws. But when Prince Hayes turns out to be kind, thoughtful, and charming, Sorsa finds herself increasingly drawn to him, especially when they're forced to work together to stop a deadly killer who's plaguing the city. There's only one problem. Sorsa is the deadly killer. Featuring an all black and brown cast, a forbidden romance, and a compulsively dark plot full of twists, this thrilling YA fantasy is perfect for fans of A Song Below Water and To Kill a Kingdom. I've never read either one of those, but I will say the plot twist was underwhelming. This to me personally was not a dark thriller. It is definitely a YA fantasy, heavy on the YA, heavy on the romantasy. And it was just a very simple, easy read. So I will say that So with this book here, Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton, it was a debut novel for her. And as I said in my reading vlog, I do feel that it read a bit like a debut novel. It was a bit repetitive, especially the description of things, the emotions that were felt, the smells that, you know, the siren may have smelled when a certain thing happens or a certain person comes around. The exact line or the exact description was repeated throughout the book. I do think that it was a bit on the slower side, and it is definitely more of a romance than a fantasy. So I guess a romantasy, which is not a problem at all. I just realized I think I'm probably more of a low fantasy versus like a romantasy. I don't mind romance because, you know, I am a romance girly, but for me personally, when I'm reading fantasy, I'm looking for battles and magic and, you know, conflict and, you know, war, things like that, as primary, and look for the romance as secondary. However, I did enjoy my time with this book. I do expect to, or I do intend to read book 2 as well. I will be finishing out this series. I hope that book 2 is a bit more action, a bit more things happening. Maybe, you know, with this being the introduction to everything and everyone, it was a bit on the slower side and a bit more focused on the romance, and maybe book 2 will really like take off and we'll get to see, you know, people using their abilities and things like that, because there was not a lot of magic or fantasy elements being used in this book. The main character, I think her name, I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Sorsa. But she was like the only one. She was a siren, and she was the only one that was really using her powers. And she didn't even get to use them a lot because sirens were not allowed. So she had to be very careful so that she didn't get caught using her powers. But I hope in book 2 we see more of, you know, the different types of phase, water phase, air phase, and things like that, fire phase. I hope we get to see them, you know, use their abilities a lot more, and then there be, you know, a bit more of action and things like that. But I would recommend this book, especially if you are a romance girly and you're wanting to dive a little bit into the fantasy world. This is a great starter for that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. Oh, I did want to point out, I did finally get into the audio of this book. I still did not really like the narrator's voice. Well, I will say, I think with this book, instead of picking one narrator to do everyone's voice, this book definitely would have benefited from having a male and a female narrator, and allowing the male to do the male parts and the female to do the female parts. The narrator in this for this book did not do a good job of changing her voice enough for you to be certain when someone else is talking. It just all kind of really sounded the same, and it was a bit flat and anticlimactic. But overall, I did enjoy this book. I would recommend it, and I don't regret reading it. Alright, so moving on to the next. The next book up that I read was Real by Miss Kennedy Ryan. So I'll go ahead for now and stick with my letting you guys know my star rating, if it is a 4 or 5. I gave Real 4 stars. So this book was a highly anticipated read for me. As I had said before, I saw this book circulating so many times. Nothing but good things about this book, and I anticipated it being a 5-star read. However, it felt a little flat for me. I love the story. I enjoyed the characters. I did feel like the ending was a bit rushed, and I felt like I wanted more from Neva and Canon. I felt like the story focused a lot on, is it Desi Blue? I can't remember her name, but they were working on a movie within the book, which I believe is called Desi Blue, and I feel like so this book is already thick, but I feel like it definitely could have benefited from being longer. I felt like we just needed more regarding Neva and Canon, and if I I just recently found out that Score does not continue on with Neva and Canon, that it talks about two of the other characters' love story, which I don't really care too much about. Would have definitely loved for Score to continue Neva and Canon's romance, just so we can get more of Canon's personality, more of their relationship, and just how it unfolded. I feel like we got the beginning of their relationship and a lot of, you know, that of Harlem Renaissance feel, but I didn't feel complete at the end of this book. I didn't feel like the ending was done well, and I too went and requested the extended epilogue for real, to see if maybe when I read that I feel closure, but I just wanted a bit more. When I finished the last page of this book, I wanted a bit more. Still had some questions. I still didn't feel like we truly got to know Canon, outside of like him being the son to his mom, who was a, you know, Hollywood star, and him being Neva's director and then boyfriend. And I feel like we got a snippet of him as a boyfriend. So I just would have liked more of their romance story to unfold, and just to see where it went. It just kind of was abrupt to me, and like, oh, and then they lived happily ever after type thing. I just would have loved to see it unfold. It took a while. I want to say maybe, don't get me quoting. It was pretty, I don't know, midway through the book maybe, for things to really take off between them. And you know, in between their romance, we had the story from the historical element was about, and so it just kind of, they were sharing their spotlight in this book with that the film that they were working on, so they didn't really just get to shine by themselves. Although I did love the historical element in this book, the Harlem Renaissance, you know, jumping back and forth with timelines. That was done very well. I enjoyed both stories. I just would have liked to see more focus on Neva and Canon, and I would like to have seen their story unfold a bit more. And I was excited when I knew that I was excited when I found out that Score was coming out soon. I thought their story would continue, but knowing now that it doesn't, I just personally couldn't give this 5 stars, but I did enjoy this read. So for all of you who have not heard of Real, who are a little behind like me, I will go ahead and read the book description. It says, Neva Saint is ready for the spotlight. After months as an understudy, this is her night to shine. She never imagined she would watch in the audience. She never imagined he would watch in the audience. Canon Holt, famous film director, fascinating, talented, and fine. Before she can catch her breath, everything is changing. Neva goes from backstage Broadway to center stage Hollywood, from being unknown to having her name on everyone's lips when Canon cast her in a star-studded Harlem Renaissance biopic. But forbidden romance, scandal, and circumstances beyond Neva's control soon put her dream in jeopardy. Could this one shot, the role of a lifetime, the love of a lifetime, cost her everything? So this was really good. I did enjoy I did enjoy how Kennedy Ryan touched on the diagnosis. I don't want to give anything away if someone hasn't read it, but the diagnosis that Neva had, I think that was very different and not something that we talk about very often. And the disease or diagnosis that she had, you know, causes her issues with her skin and her hair, which is everything to women, and how that caused her to have insecurities and things like that, which I just feel like is so realistic. So I love that nice little touch on it as well. I just would have liked to see more, hear more of Neva and Canon's love story. Would love to have seen that just unfold a bit more. But nonetheless, it's a good read, and I will be reading Score as well. All right, so moving on to the last book up that I read for the week was Do What Godmother Says by L.S. Stratton. All right, y'all, so this is my second book by Miss L.S. Stratton. And to be honest with y'all, I'm about ready to throw in the towel. First of all, this book is so gorgeous. Like, love the color, the black with the blue, and then the lighter blue on the words and the drip down, and it feels amazing. Like, this Book feels so good on my hands, and then it is a nice floppy book. It had all the elements for an amazing read, and it just felt a bit flat for me. The first book that I read by Ella Stratton was In Deadly Company, and then now I've read this one, and I want to read Not So Perfect Strangers, but I may just try to like borrow that from Libby, or I may just try to borrow, and I may just try to borrow that from Libby or on Kindle, because I'm not sure if I want to buy any more Ella Stratton books. I thought about giving this book to the little free library, but I'm gonna be honest, it's so cute, y'all, that I just want it on my shelf. But the story itself was just okay, and I started wondering, like, am I not a thriller girly? But then when I sat with this book a few minutes, once I got done with it, I'm like, to me, I think that's what was missing for me, that this was not really thrilling for me. It is very much a baby toe in the thriller pool. Like, it just was, it was okay. It was an okay read. My short little review on Goodreads says, I really wanted to love this book. Such a nice floppy book with a beautiful cover and promising premise. Felt flat for me and was very predictable. In my opinion, it wasn't very thrilling. So that's another thing. The twist at the end was like, okay, not really exciting. And I definitely had a feeling that that's what it was going to be, and the villain of the story, I definitely had a feeling that that's who it was going to be. It just was very predictable to me. And when I think of a thriller, I'm like edge of my seat thriller, like what was that book that we read with the book club, An Overnight Guest or something like that. I'll put it on the screen, but that book really had me like page turning. This was just okay. It was a little on the boring side, and I was about ready for it to be done, honestly. And I hate that, because I was really looking forward to this. But for those who have not heard of the book, I'll go ahead and read the book description. It says, Shanice Pierce knows better than to heed bad omens, but she has had a hard time ignoring the signs when she finds herself newly single and out of a job on the same day, on the same seemingly cursed day. Then while cleaning out her grandmother's house, Shanice comes across a painting that she hasn't seen in years. Drawn to the haunting portrait in a way she can't explain, Shanice accepts her grandmother's offer to keep the family heirloom. She soon uncovers the story of the artist, a Harlem Renaissance painter named Estelle Johnson. The young woman was taken under wing by the wealthy art patron Maud Bachman, or Godmother, as she insisted her artist call her, and vanished shortly after Bachman's brutal murder a century ago. As Shanice digs deeper, she becomes convinced she's been stalked, and that the deaths happening around her are connected to the staggering offer she turned down for the painting. But the truth hiding in plain sight is even more shocking and deadly than Shanice could have possibly imagined. So this sounds really good, right? Sounds really thrilling, really kind of eerie, creepy. No, and I'm a scary person, y'all. This was just okay. It was just okay. I don't want to bash it. I've heard good things about Ella Stratton, and maybe she's just not for me. Maybe her writing style is just not for me, but I was not thrilled. It was not a fun ride. It was just okay. It was like really something, like it was like one of those movies or shows that you put on just for background noise, that you check in every now and then to see what's going on, and you could have missed 20 or 30 minutes, but you're still able to just watch 5 minutes and figure out what's going on and not miss a beat. But it was just okay for me. So that's that. If you have read Not So Perfect Strangers by Ella Stratton, let me know what your thoughts were with that book, what you rated it, and if you would recommend it. And also give me some thriller authors that you guys like to read, that really knows how to write a thriller and like has you guessing and on the edge of your seat and things like that. No shade to Ella Stratton. We all know that, you know, not every book is for every person. Not every author's writing style is for every person. So I'm definitely not trying to throw shade. I know she put a lot of hard work and thought into this. It just was not my cup of tea. So, all right, so that is it for my reads for this past week. My streams, I didn't do a whole lot of streaming. I did watch You Don't Know Me on Netflix, as well as Love is Blind and Soulmates, which is on Netflix. All of those are on Netflix. If you have not watched Love is Blind, it is just a hot funky mess. Like, these people meet in these pods that go on several dates. They try to narrow it down to 1 or 2 people who they end up choosing and propose to, and then they'll meet later and in person and see if love really is blind. And a lot of those people, what that show I tell my husband this over and over every time we watch it, what that show shows me is that nobody truly knows what they want, and nobody or hardly anyone are like raw and transparent in these pods. Like, they'll be like, oh, I smoke cigarettes, for an example, and then they'll be like, oh, it doesn't bother me as long as you smoke outside, it doesn't bother me, do your thing, you're grown. Then they meet, get together, start living together, and they're like, you knew that I smoke. Yeah, but it's not really a big deal, but can you only do it these times? Can you only, and then that thing becomes the main thing that tears them apart, that person doesn't like about them. But really, all in all, I feel like they just realize that love is not blind and you need to have some type of physical attraction. But that is like kind of like our trash TV that we watch for entertainment. But those people be having me so fired up because they just be in those pods lying to each other, and then they are like complete opposites of who they truly are when they're out in the real world. Now, I will say, like, the earlier seasons were a bit more like matchmaking. They did like the matches were done pretty well and went a lot better, but these last couple of seasons have been terrible, and I do not foresee anybody getting married this season, to be honest. So if you have not watched that, check that out. If you like shows like Day Fiance, Married at First Sight, you would definitely love Love is Blind. You Don't Know Me is a show on Netflix. It's one of those mini series that have like 6 episodes, and what I loved about this show, first of all, the main female character is a book girly, and I love that. Ate that down. I love the way that she was like, don't touch my books, I have them in a certain order, and yes, I remember every story that I read. Like, I just love that book girly element to it, so that really hooked me in the first episode. And then how they meet in the beginning is very, very, very cutesy, and then that story just takes a spin from there. Like, after he approaches her and they start dating, they have a whirlwind romance for a good few months, and then things just take a turn. And what I love about this story is it kind of has, and you may hate this, but what they'll do is, let's say he tells a story and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she did that, and that's how that happened, or whatever, and then it flashes back again and it shows you the other way that the situation could have unfolded. And so in the end, which is what I hated, the ending of what happens is kind of left up to you. They show you 2 different endings, and then it's over with. So the show starts with him being in court defending himself and what happened. He's on trial for murder, and so throughout his whole testimony, he's decided to represent himself. So throughout his whole story, he'll say, like I said, that things happen this way, and then you'll be so mad and fussing or whatever, and then he's like, or could it be this? And then he says how, another way how it could have happened. But it does that off and on throughout the whole little mini series, and then at the end, like I said, it gives you 2 endings, and you're just like, what, really? And I was so frustrated. I was like, okay, is that lazy writing because y'all didn't want to be the ones to decide, so you're just letting us pick which ending we want? But I really, really did enjoy it nonetheless. And then the other thing that I watched, the other show that I watched is called Soulmates, and that is it says it's through AMC, but I watched it on Netflix, and it is like, and that show is about this program of some sort that can like scan your brain and match you with your soulmate. And some of these people that do this are already married, but they want to know if their spouse is their soulmate, or they're not happy anymore, so then they are wanting to find out who their soulmate is. And each episode focuses on a different couple, so it's not one of those like continual series where episodes 1, 2, and 3 are about the same people. Episode 1 will be about a couple, and then episode 2 is a completely different couple and different scenarios and things like that. But enjoyed that. It was something very different. I feel like it started out like at a 10, and then each episode has kind of worked its way down, but somewhere that kind of just trash trashy TV that we enjoy to watch sometimes just for, you know, giggles. But that is it, y'all. That was it for my weekly wrap up. So overall, I had a pretty good reading month of the month of February. I do want to point out that I did so good reading my physical TBR, y'all. I got all the books read on my TBR except for one, on my physical TBR except for one, and that was Blood in the Water by Tiffany Jackson. But I will be starting that book tomorrow with my son after school, and I plan to get some snippets of that to share with you guys as well. He's so excited. We just wrapped up our basketball season, so we will have a bit more free time in the evenings. But other than that, I did pretty good, and I'm so proud that I stuck to my physical TBR. Yay! And I'm trying to decide what I'm gonna do for March, as far as like I'm gonna do a TBR. I was thinking about doing like a weekly thing, maybe choosing my books for the week. But I did enjoy the TBR prompt jar with February, so I'm thinking also about doing that again. Or should I do book titles? Let me know down in the comments. Y'all help me out. Should I do another TBR draw with prompts, or should I do with book titles this time? Let me know what y'all think down in the comments. But that is it, y'all. That was it for my weekly wrap up. I am still having the 500 subscriber giveaway going. I think only 2 people entered in to the giveaway on my last video, or the video before that. So if only those 2 enter and nobody else enters, then I will just give those girls books off of their wish list. So if you have not entered up until this point, go back to that video and drop the information that you need to in order to enter the giveaway. If not, like I said, in a week I would just give it to those girls. But I want to open it up to all of my subscribers, because y'all are the reason that I am here. So if you would like to win a book off of your Amazon wish list, go back to that video please and enter in the information in order to be included in the giveaway drawing. So that is it. That is all for today's weekly wrap up. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. Y'all are some real ones. I'm so thankful and grateful for you. And until next time, don't forget to show yourself some love today. Blessed with another chance, blessed with another chance, blessed with another chance.